let's check this out, and you guys can kind of give your. It was written by Christian Booher.
Wilkins.
Booher, I think his name is. Works
My
for
brother.
John. Sure, he's a good dude. And he's wrote a lot of articles for John. But he wrote out this like who could be dealt at the draft if there is a trade. And the first name he had. Get ready for this one.
Pull her up, Jeff. Pull up the article.
Anticipation.
I mean,
safety.
Oh, there we go.
Ifitu
Wow.
Melifonwu. Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna piss a lot of people off.
Yeah, that was the first player he named. Yeah, he wrote here, Melifonwu has had an interesting 3 years since being drafted in the third round of the 2021 draft. Injuries have limited him for much of his career, but he's really proved himself as a legitimate contributor when given an opportunity down the stretch last year. And it talked about kind of what he's been. You know, excellent blitzer, 2 interceptions in coverage. When he balled out second half of last year. And he writes, if the Lions were able to make this move, it would be because they'd be banking on him not being able to replicate his success from the end of last season. Should Detroit look to pick a safety earlier in the draft and trust Brian Branch to take more reps in the role, then Melifonwu can be facing a tough spot on the depth chart.
Can I just cut this off real quick? Is it okay? Can I? Like, yeah, Booner, go ahead. No, this isn't going to happen. I mean, if they thought that he was going to not replicate what he did last year, they would have re-signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson and moved down from him. Like, you see what I'm saying? There's zero chance.
Well, let me ask you this, Boone.
Zero chance.
Kind of. But let me ask you this, Boone. Just kind of playing devil's advocate here. What if they're sitting at 29? Let's say Brad's sitting there and he's thinking about trading back. And while he's thinking about trading back, he's like, while I do this, I can ship Iffy somewhere. I can get assets and take a guy like Mikey Sanders still. So if he moves off Iffy for a guy like Mikey, are you mad at that? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I don't think they're going to trade Iffy either.
And like for this whole situation, and I think Jeff agrees because I think Jeff was one of the ones on the same page as me on this. Is like Iffy, we did see a small sample size. If we haven't seen like a full year, 2 years, that's why I was a little more so on or actually it might have been you, Lucas. I was more so sold on the CJ Gardner-Johnson thing because he has put that together for years. Iffy is on basically like a 6-game sample size, in my opinion. That's kind of what we saw. So for me, it was just, hey, if you're going to pick Iffy over CJ, you're keeping Iffy. Even if Mikey Sanders still comes about, you find a way just to take Mikey Sanders still and put him in there, and then you can move on from Iffy in the future. But I don't see it to where it's, hey, let's just move on from Iffy and we can trust Mikey Sanders still right away. Even I'm a Michigan guy and say, I don't throwing a rookie in there right away just to say like, oh, is he going to work? I don't know. I don't see Iffy ever being moved this year, though. That's just something to me I just don't see happening.
Yeah, as much as I love Mike, I agree too. I just can't see them moving on from Iffy for how much he's shown, obviously, in the past game, making interceptions and getting to the quarterback. I still think there's a lot of unknown and like untapped potential with Iffy that they're probably going to see through. I don't see them just giving him up before the draft or at the draft, rather.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. I mean, he's Brad Holmes' draft pick, and he showed a lot. So, like, you know, it's like Brad Holmes' baby. You know, he's a 3rd-round pick. He showed what Brad thought he'd be last year, the second half. There's just no way. The only way, I guess there is, it's like a 1%, is he's going to be due for a contract, but they get it done, though. I mean, I would assume they get it done. So I don't even think that's a reason. But I guess it'd be contractually, I guess. But no, you have more leverage because in 3 years, he hasn't been what he was the second half of last year. So
yeah,
it's not like you're paying him a bag for half a season. You pay him based on what you think he can be. So I think you'd get him on a pretty good discount, or at least a little bit of a discount. So yeah, I don't think this is happening. No, I don't see it. I don't. I think they're going to keep Iffy and roll with him. Let's see here. We'll get Lucas back in a second. He's going to join. I'm just going to put the next person or the next player on here, and you guys can kind of react to it. And that player is. Do you guys have a guess? At least because none of you have seen it, right?
No, I think I just seen this one because it was below the screen. If not, I've seen the next player we're going to talk about. But
I would say, can I get an offense or defense, and then I can pick a player?
Defense.
Defense.
Say James Houston.
I like that, or like a Derek Barnes.
Wow, you're getting scraps for those fellas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, both of them probably, to be honest. But I don't know who else on the defense I don't know who else you would trade.
Well, There's an ad.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
Amazon.
Derek Barnes.
Derek Barnes.
Yeah,
Here we
free
go.
plug.
Derek Barnes. It's an
I'm
ad.
so confused.
Hey, oh.
Oh, happy Mother's
That's
Day.
what I like.
Yeah, the next one, you saw it? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't see
I'm
the
up
next
for
one. I
that
need a
one.
guess on that one. Oh, I see it.
You can
Oh,
see it. Yeah, it's Levi Onwuzurike, but they have
A lot of
Derek Barnes
defensive
down
guys.
here. Barnes is another player who's coming off a good campaign. He was used to an edge role at Purdue, so learning the new role took time, and he experienced hiccups when the Lions drafted Jack Campbell. Barnes looked to be the odd one out in the rotation, and it kind of talked about him maybe being expendable because he's in the final year of his rookie deal. That one I'd put more stock into than Iffy.
I agree.
Yeah.
I will say that.
I just
I
don't know
think they
what you're
need-
getting for these guys. Go ahead, Gentry.
Yeah, no, that too. I don't think the return would be crazy on Derek Barnes. And I think they would have to be fully confident in Jack Campbell taking that next step and playing almost like every down for them, because Derek Barnes hasn't been great for the Lions over the years, but he was decent last year and he was pretty consistent compared to past years. So I think I don't know if they're going to be ready to just throw out young Jack Campbell every single down like that. And I think Jack's going to take a big step. But I think having Derek Barnes right now for some safety behind him, or with him rather, is probably the best option. I don't think you should get rid of Derek Barnes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you like ship Derek in a pick, because I mean, you also got to think they got Malcolm back there, and even Jerm at one point when this team was at the bottom of this rebuild, Jerm was a starting linebacker for this team. So I think they have enough depth. But Derek Barnes, he's solid. He's on a rookie deal. I can't see a team that's like desiring Derek Barnes outside of like a pick to go with it as well. And I don't think Brad's trying to trade assets along with Barnes when they like Barnes, I think, in the building.
I do think too, with the Barnes situation, if it comes down to it, say he does get traded, I think it's because they took another linebacker in this draft. Like if they somehow, and I've heard this name a lot, like an Edgerrin Cooper or something, if they end up doing that, like say the second round and he falls and they can get him in the second round, and that's like just a Brad Holmes guy, and he says, hey, we're going to bring him in. That would be the only way I could see them saying, hey, Derek, like, we have a stacked linebacker room now.
Well,
Jack Campbell's now in his second year. We have Anzo. Now we have Edgerrin Cooper. We have Malcolm Rodriguez. You know, that we have dudes now in this room. Jerm, and like, those are dudes. You can't have 7 or 8 linebackers on your roster that are all guys who can play. At some point, if that does happen, why not just get a 5th or 6th round pick for a guy and say, hey, let's just move on. Go play somewhere.
Hey, if you're drafting a linebacker, it'll be Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Remember the name.
He's solid. He's no Edgerrin Cooper, though, Jeff. He's no Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper plays with his head cut off, bro. He's the next Dre Greenlaw.
And they're, yeah. If you're talking like comp in terms of how they play, Cooper's probably Dre Greenlaw, and Trotter style's like kind of Fred Warner. He's not like what they climb. It's not saying he's Fred Warner, but what I'm saying is he's more cover guy. Edgerrin ain't covered.
Alex Anzalone?
Yeah.
I do think he's not going to get this isn't going to happen. Both of you so far are, to me, unrealistic.
You're not getting
neither of them.
You're not even getting a comp 7th pick for Levi right now. I'm sorry.
Can we just
you're leaving
Levi
him out
one?
by the curb trade value wise? You're leaving him out by the curb for a scrapper to come and get, and they don't even want it.
Yeah, can we skip Levi?
For value.
Skip Levi.
Yeah, Levi's not even. I don't even know. You'd
him.
probably get a bag of chips for him, to be honest. I mean,
just the bag though. The chips are gone. They already ate the chips. You just get the bag.
Mostly air in that bag.
It's a Lay's bag. Yeah, Lay's chip bag with a lot of air. It's a lot of air in it. Nothing. No substance. No substance at all. Well, the next one is kind of not surprising, but also I've seen people throw this idea around, and that's Jameson Williams.
That was if I had to pick one on the whole football team, the whole Detroit Lions team, if you had said, Booner, who do you think on this team would be traded draft night? If I picked anyone, and I love JMO, my number one answer would be Jameson Williams. And then that's just, I think, based off value and ceiling to where you can maybe get some. There's no one else on this roster that I would be willing to give up that has any value that you can get anything for. Jameson Williams would probably be the one.
I'd be so mad. Go ahead and cook though. Jen.
I wouldn't like the trade. Like I want JMO here. I just like, if we're being realistic, it's like you see draft day trades. It has to be with someone with some value. JMO has like he has the ceiling to where you can convince a team, hey, he's coming off the injury. Look what he did down the stretch. Maybe you can convince someone to throw him in if you're trying to move up a little or do something. That's my only thought.
Let me read their explanation, and then you guys can cook. I'll read what they said. So they say Williams has flashed plenty of the elite talent during his 2 seasons with the Lions, but hasn't been able to put it together in a complete effort. Through 2 years, he's played just 18 games and has 24 catches. That's fucked up. There's plenty of potential for him to continue developing into an eventual star. In fact, there's buzz that he could be on his way to this in his 3rd NFL campaign. Still, this will be a pivotal year for him as he enters what will be his first full season.
I think this is the worst one. This is the worst one. Brad Holmes traded up 20 spots for this man, and you saw the best of what he could be, and he looked pretty damn electric. So now you're telling me he's looking electric. You moved up 20 spots, you lost value moving up for him, or you lost draft picks, and now you see that glimpse, and you're like, you know what, instead of letting this full option play out like people want to see with Iffy, Booner, you're the one that says, and we all agree with you, Jameson Williams has the highest ceiling in the wide receiver room for the Detroit Lions. So this is arguably the lowest his trade value is ever going to be. So why trade him now? I think this is the worst one on the article. I mean, I see the point of, he's an injured player, he has low production, but it's like, so now you're going to move off him when he showed you a glimpse of what he can be, and the Lions need a wide receiver too. There's no way. There's no way. His value is at the rock bottom right now.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
No, Brad, like Lucas said, Brad traded up to get him. One, he already knew he was going to miss time. So after 2 years, he's just going to give up on him, given that he knew he was going to miss time partially some of that first year. And then Dan's already talked about it. Dan's already said he's confident that J-Mo's going to take that next step to be wide receiver 2. They're not just going to go give him up. And then at that point in time, they're going to have to go back and draft another wide receiver in this draft. And like I said, Brad Holmes has confidence in his guys. There's no way he's giving up on J-Mo this early after trading up and giving up so much to get him. So there's no way. No way. This is by far the worst one.
I'm with Klotz on this. He's kind of changed me a little bit. I'm with that a little. I do see the only reason I said that potentially I felt like maybe if I had to pick a player, like I'm not trading Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm not trading Sam Laporta. Like, let's just look at the offensive side. Gibbs, you're not giving up. To me, I'm not giving up any of the offensive line. There's just the only person that's the kind of the odd guy out that no one knows about is J-Mo. But the fact, like what Lucas said, I think he has the highest ceiling on this football team when it comes to skill wise. I think him or Jahmyr Gibbs, you can argue both have just as high of a ceiling together. And I think he has so much potential and we haven't seen it yet. And he's at his lowest, like to Lucas's point, he is at his lowest right now. So what are you going to get? Like at that point, that's a guy to where you keep him on your roster. You've already used 2 seasons to kind of bring him in, develop him, get him involved, get him in this system. And then all of a sudden you're going to give up on him after you traded up 20 picks for him. You just saw Booner do a whole 180. I'm with Klotz on this. That was very, very great. And I want to imagine it. This is one of those scenarios. You trade a guy like Jameson Williams, he ends up going on another team. He hits his ceiling, and you look stupid.
What I was gonna say.
Now you look dumb. You keep Jameson.
You trade him even to a team like hypothetical, but like the Cardinals, and it's like a team that needs a wide receiver, and then that's when me and Booner and I think Gentry and Jeff agree as well. As far as strictly ceiling, we're not saying he's better than Amon-Ra as far as what he's done in his career so far. But if they were to work and Jameson Williams go to a situation like that, and he's 1,000-yard wide receiver, which him really doesn't need that many amount of catches, because I know he struggles with his hands right now, but once the game slows down for Jameson Williams, Jerry Rice struggled with drops. Devontae Adams struggled with drops. And I'm not saying he's going to be them, but with a guy with that upside, once the game slows down, he's going to be somebody that every team wants because he can just break that secondary down with a fade out or a post route and open everything else up.
I don't even Amon-Ra St. Brown would agree he has a higher ceiling. Like that's why I push back on that. Even the man that people would argue has a higher ceiling would agree J-Mo has a higher ceiling. So that kind of ends the argument right there. And that's the problem with ceiling versus or potential ceiling versus production or what you are. No one's saying that Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the best receivers in the league. But Amon-Ra St. Brown wasn't gifted with 4.2 speed, right? That's just how that works.
We've heard Amon-Ra say that before.
Yeah, he said it multiple times. So, and I've said it on a podcast. But anyway, there's stuff that you can't teach that J-Mo has. Now, production-wise, he is nowhere close to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So that's the problem. Can he get there? I don't know. I think he can. Now, here's the other point of it. besides, if Brad Holmes trades him away, he would essentially be admitting he lost. Like he would be admitting that it was a bad pick. If you're trading him away, you admitted that. And I don't think he would do that. And also you're selling a stock when it's at an all-time low, which doesn't make sense for Brad Holmes. You're not selling a stock when it's at the lowest point. Like especially for Amon-Ra, he's on a rookie deal, or excuse me, JMO, who's on a rookie deal. Like, no, there's still untapped potential there. Like that's just it is what it is. And even if Adam, I love him, but even if he disagrees, like that's fine. But
and I mean it's kind of like it's just
wrong,
obvious when you watch
wrong.
completely wrong. When you just watch football, if you know football, you just look at the game and watch him at Alabama and see the speed that he has. Just any player around the league that has that sort of speed and potential and can run the routes and do what he does, you know that there is potential just sitting there. Like you have to get to that ceiling. He may never hit the ceiling and do the stats that Adam put in the chat there. He may never get there. That doesn't mean he didn't have that ceiling, though. That does not mean it. We know skill sets, like JMO has a different skill set than Amon-Ra. JMO is way quicker, faster than Amon-Ra St. Brown. That is a fact that we've already seen on the football field, whether it's in the NFL or college. That's just a fact, right?
Yeah, I mean, you saw Jameson Williams take a 50-yard end around to the house in the NFC Championship game. I love Amon-Ra, but he's never doing that. I understand he had like what was it, in his rookie year, we had the kind of the handoff of the Commanders or something like that. But at the end of the day, if that's Jameson Williams, it's a house call. You know what I mean? Like every time. And I agree with the idea that Amon-Ra is a guy that's almost reached his potential and he's a wide receiver one. But at the end of the day, it's like if Jameson Williams was catching 200 balls off the jug machine every day like Amon-Ra was, I don't think there would be any debate who would be the better wide receiver at this point. I think Amon-Ra is just the not typical, but the formula of what you look at when you work every day and you got to meet the talent of the other guys. And it's just that typical saying where it's like hard work. When you match that with production and you just keep working and working, it's going to meet talent. If talent doesn't work hard, it's not going to meet the production. It's just simple as that.
Beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's what you're saying, and I agree with that. That's where JMO is more talented. What he did at Alabama's final year, obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown never had close to that, but Amon-Ra's always had to work harder to get there. Like JMO's just gifted this ability. Now, what he does with it, who knows? But I don't think it's egregious to see. You can look at wide receivers and say, well, this guy has more potential, but this guy's a better player. Like, I don't think that's a wild take at all.
Actually. I mean, think about last year's draft. Who were some of the top receivers that went last year? Can you guys name a couple? I'm trying to think real quick.
Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnston, Jackson Smith-Njigba,
Jordan Addison.
So just think about this. Those guys, some of those guys have some high ceilings, correct? There's a couple dudes that do. Puka Nacua went out there and put up the insane numbers over in LA. Does that mean he has a higher ceiling than some of these higher level and higher draft picks and dudes who just have pure talent over him and who are faster than him? No, some of those guys have ceilings, but Puka Nacua is in an amazing situation. He puts the work in. He's an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of player who knows how to play towards his advantage. It's different, but there are guys there, in my opinion, like a Jameson Williams with the speed that he has and the ability that he has to make big plays. That, I mean, those ceilings, those are like Tyreek Hill type of like ceilings to where like you have that type of speed. Once you get more touches and start getting the feel, and Adam, and the way Adam will take that is I said he's like Tyreek Hill. That's not what I'm saying. And
no,
I actually Tyreek Hill, but I think that ceiling to where that speed and what he can do on the football field is there. And it's obvious. Now it's about, can you get that on the football field? Can you get him to do that? Can you find ways to put the ball in his hands in those positions? That's what it comes down to, because they know how to do that with Amon-Ra St. Brown now. Like, they know how to get him the ball and put him in the best position to be successful. How do you do that with Jameson Williams, someone with more athleticism and more skill and everything? So that's where I'm kind of,
let me help you out.
The cool thing. It's literally the same thing.
No, you're spot on. Let me help you out too. Your point about Tyreek and people, this is the problem with our society, is they hear things and they run with them. What you're saying is not he's Tyreek Hill. What you're saying is you see what a player like that with that speed can do. And you look at J-Mo with his speed. That is God-given speed. That's 4.2 speed. Not John Ross speed. I'm talking SEC torching NFL corner speed. Like, we're not talking like John Ross what was he at Washington? Like, I'm talking J-Mo at Alabama in the biggest game, running away, torching the best defense by far in college football. That's what we're talking about. That speed, not John Ross speed, that speed, production.